Hi, I'm Robert Varnado, president of Lee Container. Our company is committed to building a welcoming workplace. Inclusive employment isn't just the right thing to do, it's good for business. More than 8 out of 10 adults with developmental differences do not have a paid job, and only 36% of the public believes that they are capable of being leaders. Now is the time to change that. We can work together to provide more opportunities for the 6.5 billion people in the U.S. that have autism, intellectual, or developmental differences. Join Lee Container in taking the Delivering Jobs pledge today. We're supporting Autism Speaks, Best Buddies, and Special Olympics in their commitment to create pathways to 1 million employment and leadership opportunities for this talented community by 2025. Together we can build the workforce of the future. Visit deliveringjobs.org to learn more.
Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson. Now, here's the voice of the Gophers, Mike Grimm.
Off and running. It's another Wednesday, our second straight Wednesday edition of Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson. And hey, we've got some good news to talk about for sure. Big win last night in Iowa City. The Golden Gophers knock off the Iowa Hawkeyes 72-67, back-to-back Big Ten wins. Now I am Mike Grimm. Justin Guard is alongside. He's getting ready for women's hoops tonight as well. And it was a big night last night for the Gophers. JG, good to see you.
Glad you made it back from Iowa City, man.
Yeah.
Glad you made it back just in time.
Coach, you had a nice bus ride home. You told me in the post game that nobody was going to sleep, so I'm going to we're going to dig, and this is great investigative journalism here to start the show. Did anybody sleep, or was it just one big party on that 5-hour bus ride home?
No, I thought guys did sleep because we didn't get until early in the morning. But I thought guys they did their normal talking and conversing and having a good time early, and it just got really quiet. So I'm like, oh, okay, guys are already shut it down because it's already late. And then we had the TV playing because we were watching the Oregon-Washington game, and that game got over, and then they went to the Big Ten studios and did our highlights. And then when Frank got on, then all of a sudden it went from silence to everybody exploding and going nuts when he was being interviewed. So they were paying attention. But then I think once it got 2:30. Those guys were out, which is good. They needed the rest.
Yeah, that was enough for sure in terms of that ride home. And everyone got in early in the morning. Hopefully, and now all of a sudden it's put that one behind you, I suppose, right? And move on to this weekend with Oregon coming to town.
Yeah, definitely. Another really good opportunity against a really good team, another ranked opponent. It should be fun. So now the prep work begins. You kind of enjoy that last night. You watch it, review it, talk about it. Then the next day you got to be able to flesh it and be ready to prep for a really good team on Saturday.
That bus ride, those moments, that's the addicting part of sports though, right? I mean, that's what everybody's chasing. That's what old players and old coaches miss. If you ask coaches, what do you miss? The locker room after a win, or a bus ride after you beat a rival. You hadn't won there in 10 years, essentially, which checks out. I thought about it, I go, yeah, that makes sense. I remember Squirrel Morris going for 30 one day and getting a win down there. But those are the best days, right? I mean, that's why you do this.
Yeah. To your point, I told our guys after last game, it was the day after, and we were watching the film breakdown. I just said, I'm just telling you from firsthand experience, none of you guys are necessarily going to remember the individual game if we didn't win. The memories that you make are the ones like, hey, remember when we beat ranked Michigan at home and the locker room celebration, or what it was after the game, running onto the floor. It's the same thing for Iowa. It's like, hey, those guys knew right away. The minute I walked in the locker room, they knew that we hadn't won there in 10 years. And so they're exploding and going nuts and going crazy. And you remember the bus ride. You remember the stories, and you're talking about it, and it's just team cohesion. And that's the stuff that you want those guys to build on. Like that feeling of winning is contagious, and it's addicting.
No doubt. And now it's 2 in a row. You talked about it last week on the show, the day before the Michigan game, that you felt good about kind of the direction the team was heading. There was progress, and you thought, if you just get one, then another can go, and maybe you can string some together. And we all, as a collective group, talked about in this Big Ten and that group of teams, it happens often, right? You win one, you can win another. But on the flip side, you lose one, and that can turn into a couple. Now Iowa's lost 3 in a row. We talked about UCLA last week and their players, who somebody on the show said might might be losers.
Yeah.
But,
Direct
but I said the coach might need to rattle the cage. Guess what? Now they've won, I think, 3 in a row after a 4-game losing. So it happens, and now you guys are sitting on the good side of that with 2 in a row.
Yeah, no question. That's what this league is can you withstand maybe the droughts or the areas where you're not playing well in stretches. But it's going to happen. It's about your response and how you respond. And again, I kept talking about to our guys and openly in public that even though we weren't getting the results, we had grown from each and every game. So from where we were from Michigan State to where we are now is light years. And I do think you look at our Big Ten schedule, I mean, every game we've gotten better, including Iowa. To be able to learn from the other road games and get the road win, and I think kind of convincingly fashion, even though they scrambled to get it close late. I mean, we had that thing in control. And so it just shows that every game we've learned from the good and from the bad, and we've progressed and we've gotten better.
Why were you able to control it for really 35-ish minutes for the most part until things got a little crazy at the end?
I thought our guys were just locked in. Again, they've always had this confidence to them that they were good enough. And all it takes is that one moment where it's stamped, and now the belief is through the roof. And I don't think there was ever a doubt in those guys' minds the days leading up to the game with our prep. I could just tell it was pretty business. And then in the game, just the stuff they were saying in timeouts told me that they truly believed, especially early when they were kind of figuring it out. And against Iowa, you got to find a rhythm because of how they play. And so you're never going to necessarily jump on them early. It's figuring out, okay, here's the rhythm of it. Here's the rhythm of our defense and how we got to guard. Here's the rhythm of our offense and what it has to look like versus their coverages. Once they figured that out and settled in, then it was just like, all right, let's stretch the lead. Right, let's extend it, and the belief never wavered. All the way to the last, 5 minutes. Again, even then it didn't. Right. Even then they were more mad about like, all right, we knew this has happened. We've shown them, at USC it's the same thing. It's just that's how Iowa plays. They were more frustrated, like, well, we were playing good enough. We shouldn't have let it get to this point. So,
did you feel like your physicality bothered them?
100%.
Just watching it, it felt like, and that's what, I mean, you talked about it day one. That's what you want this program to be about. Physical at the rim, rebounding. That has to make you feel good as a coach that you go down to their place, and in many cases we're the tougher team.
Yeah, no, and we have to be. Because that's got to be a standard of our program. But B, for us to be successful, we have to own the paint. We have to be physical. Teams, they have to feel us defensively, especially. But I think that transfers over to good offense. I think when you're tough and your toughness shows defensively, it's going to show in getting paint touches. I mean, we got to the line again because we were driving it. Offensive rebounds, just having that mentality of Frank getting a second or third tip. Everything was at the rim. Every reversal is a little bit stronger and tighter. I think that's a correlation to just the being the brand of being that toughness. But we understand who we are, and we know we have to have that if we want to have any chance in this league.
And then you kept getting stops. I just got the sense, it wasn't a big crowd, it was like 5 degrees outside, 8 o'clock game, but I got the sense that those that were there were waiting for shots to start going in, and the team even, the Iowa team, and they just never did. You just kept getting stops. Now they missed some open ones, but you guys were running them off the 3-point line. I mean, Freeman got some points in the paint, and they won that part of the battle, but part of that was by design. You didn't want them to hit a bunch of threes, right?
Right, and that was a part of that design, especially when they go on those runs. A huge part, you just see it on film and through prior history, is they make those 1 or 2 threes that all of a sudden kill you. And so we switched our ball screen coverage. I said, hey, we're going to defend a 3. I know there's a chance they're going to get a 2, but I'd rather make it a game of 2 than a game of 3. And over time, it's like, fellas, just stay with it. Then there'll be a time when you switch that up and you can go, all right, we're changing it. We're going to go back to our 54. We're taking away, the 2s. And I thought our guys, they believed in it, and they did. They scored twice, and they had some size and advantage, but we defended the 3. And to me, especially on the road at that place, that crowd was waiting for that 1 3 to go. And if you can hold that off, and I was like, man, if we can get to around a minute where we can then go back to our normal defense, we can stretch it or keep this a 2-possession game, a 4 or 5 point game, then you can switch things up. And I just thought our guys, from the minute the ball was tipped, especially on Dix, did a phenomenal job of making them earn and work for threes. I mean, I think, as a team, they were 0-7, I think, in the first half. And, to be able to keep them in the 60s, it was a huge factor for us. They're averaging 84 in league, and we couldn't make it a track meet. So everything just kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that was their lowest point total of the season at 67. So good job there. You mentioned Dick scored just 5 points. Thelwell was like 1 for 8. And you were able to shut them down a little in the mid-range game. And I think what JG was talking about, the physicality of it, right, in terms of just making a miss.
Yeah, and it is a hard cover because, they're playing smaller this year. And so you're putting Dawson on Thelwell, who's got great speed, who's a very capable scorer. Like, I've seen on film, it scared me to death because I'm like, hey, I know he's got to gap him, but like, this kid's built to score. And all he needs to do is see 1-3 going, and all of a sudden now you got to deal with him. And so I thought it was so imperative for us early to set the tone of what this was going to be and build confidence all the way around. I thought our guys just did a great job of defending that three and kind of taking the bread and butter away early.
You mentioned Frank Mitchell twice. Do you win either of these games without Frank Mitchell? Michigan and Iowa. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah, no, we don't. And, we got the Warrior belt for a reason.
I was going to make sure. I was going to be disappointed if it was like a team-wide Warrior belt. Because I'm like, Frank, that 2-minute stretch, about the 16-minute mark of the second half, where a block, a good wall up, the 2 tips that you mentioned. I mean, that's game-changing.
Well, and just his physicality against Freeman made a difference in our fronts. And I thought we did a pretty good job post defense with him, and just his ability to work, and he's got really good feet, and he's got a motor when he's rested, and so to get that motor on him and his feet and his physicality, he was just driven. And then again, what he does naturally, offensive rebounds. He had another, not only the tip, but just he gets the possession and he kicks it out.
Yeah.
And now we get another look or another possession just to run something and run clock. And then to make the 2 free throws.
Yeah.
I mean, to make those 2
God
free
bless
throws.
the back of that rim there on the first one. Nice and soft.
I told him it ain't a beauty contest. It's not a beauty contest. You look at that box score, it doesn't say
it says
hit every part of the rim. It just says 2 for 2. But for that kid, even in that moment, people that are around it every day don't realize how significant that is for him and how significant it is for Femi. After that long break, you go from an air ball to a make. Just a significant, we're a team that's used to okay, we're going 0 for 2. The difference it makes to just get one of those is huge. It's huge. And, I don't know if we're doing that a month ago. I think we go to the line and you're hoping, but you're probably not getting it. Whereas now we're either getting both or we're at least getting one. And just it rallies everybody when the guys see those type of plays being made.
Best video of the night, watching it back. Mitchell getting the tip, screaming, letting it out. In the background, there's Coach Ben Johnson trying to get him back on defense because Owen Freeman's sprinting back. I don't think he could sprint at that point. I think he got him out after that. But it's just the coaching never stops, right? The coaching never stops. Great moment, great bit. Oh, by the way, Freeman's that way, and you're not going to catch him now. It's over.
Because we worked on that. You know what I mean? And that's the part where we talked about that all the time. It's I love the emotion. I love the celebratory, and all this fun and games until you get beat.
Yeah.
And again, it's come on, man. But
if it was the one I was thinking of, at least Frank realized it and he was pointing to Dawson hey, go get him.
Yeah, somebody needed to match him.
Yeah. Go find Freeman. Real quickly on Mitchell too. Frank Mitchell, we're talking. He started the year with the shoulder injury, and then he had foul trouble, right, for the first handful of games. And I always think by the time you get into mid-January in the Big Ten, now it becomes a little bit more of a wrestling match, right? I mean, the point of emphasis and all that stuff's worn off, and now it's a war every night starting about now. And that might fit Frank's game, right? I mean, maybe this is all part of it. Like I said in the pregame interview yesterday about the Michigan game, and I didn't mean that he didn't care. I said, well, Frank just went out like he didn't care. He just is all right, I'm going to push people. I'm going to bully people. And if they call a foul, they call a foul. And this is Big Ten ball now.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think something that maybe helps, maybe it's just me, but I think the balance of him and Parker is good because they're so different. And it's kind of you're keeping teams off balance a little bit when you've got those two different guys that'll defend you a little bit different. Offense, they both have skill and can run our stuff, but, one can slip and get dunks and play above the rim. The other can really pass it and is not looking maybe to score as much. The defense, one's a little bit more slithery, and the other one's just beat you up, and I do think that helps because it's just a different look. A big has to adjust to two different guys, and all of a sudden, you're dealing with Parker, and all of a sudden you got to deal with the physicality of Frank, and I think that gives him an advantage. Yeah. And I think the refs now are understanding his game and understanding it's the Big Ten, and so some of the fouls that maybe were called in the non-conference aren't called as much now, which really helps him. And I think he's just figured out what Big Ten basketball is and the stuff he can get away with and what he's got to do to create an advantage. But, again, I thought, it was great to have both him, Fox, and Trey in the first half. Yeah. But, great to have the balance of him and Fox to go back and forth. That was a game where, you need to have three bigs to try to wear Freeman down and give him different looks. And I thought both those guys really stepped up. But, Frank's come into his own. I think some of it is just he's gotten into much better shape. Credit to him. I mean, this last month he's worked his butt off with Coach Thorson and getting in here. But he's just, you can tell the light bulb has gone on, and again, it's kind of like Lukai and Femi a little bit, like the light bulb has gone on, and now it's like, all right, how far can you take it?
Right. All right, let's take our first break. We'll come back. We'll have more. Stay with us. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you. Because Toyota's got 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. And that's more than any other auto brand. From the versatile RAV4 to the Svelte Crown, the sleek Camry all-wheel drive, the Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive, the rugged Tacoma, the tenacious Tundra, and the spacious Grand Highlander with all-wheel drive to keep you and yours safe. Hey, you bring the action, we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. Based on manufacturer's websites as of 10/20/24.
Do you know how plastic bottles become shirts, shoes, or backpacks? What happens when your recyclables leave your curb? Can they really become something new? Visit WM.com to learn how WM helps turn your plastic bottles into everyday products, giving materials a second life. WM has the recycling infrastructure, innovation, and expertise to serve our Twin Cities community and care for our planet. The recycling process starts and ends with you. Visit WM.com to learn more.
Kids, some days keeping up with them takes everything you've got. And in return, they give us everything they've got. At M Health Fairview Pediatrics, we've made it our life's work to care for kids. To do anything and everything we can for every kid who comes through our doors. Because the most important people in your world are our whole world. Learn more about a world of care just for kids at mhealthfairviewpeds.org.
Are you looking for concert or sports tickets? As a local Minnesota company, Ticket King is a company you can trust. They have seats to fit every budget and even offer parking or tailgating passes, and all tickets are guaranteed. Each order is personally attended to by one of our dedicated customer service representatives who are committed to providing you with a courteous, professional, quick, convenient experience. Visit us at ticketkingonline.com or call us directly at 612-341-4131.
U of M looks good on you. Shop the largest selection of University of Minnesota clothing, accessories, and gifts at the University of Minnesota bookstores. Love to read? Check out their huge selection of books. Want competitive pricing on the latest technology, tech accessories, services, and repairs? U of M Bookstores has that too. Visit the U of M bookstores in Kaufman Memorial Union, the St. Paul Student Center, game day kiosks, or online at bookstores.umn.edu. You can guarantee yourself a Minnesota maroon and gold win when you sell your business with Sunbelt Business Advisors. Sunbelt is a local alumni-owned company and proud sponsor of Gopher Athletics. Sunbelt provides business owner brokerage services to small businesses as well as mergers and acquisition services for companies up to $150 million in revenue. Are you thinking about selling? Sunbelt can help you make the most from your life's work. Visit sunbeltminnesota.com for a free confidential value range. Minnesota's largest seller of companies. sunbeltminnesota.com.
How much can you save when you shop Cub? Let's just say you might need a bigger cart. We've lowered prices so you save more. On Essential every day, it's easy to see the savings. Across the aisles, from pantry products to frozen foods to delicious dairy and more. Your family will love it. Guaranteed. Or your money back. Shop Cub and save today. My Cub, my way. See store for details.
The University of Minnesota teams and traditions are legendary. Our team at Strategic Wealth Designers are proud to be a partner of Minnesota Athletics. What an honor to be working together. When you're ready to discuss your financial future, call the team, the Golden Gophers Trust. We look forward to creating your winning strategy for retirement. Visit us at swdgroup.com today and go Gophers.
Playing the Minnesota Lottery is exciting, so here to tell you all about it is me. And to make it more exciting, I'll be using my movie trailer voice. In a world where we all crave more play in our day, one woman's journey leads her to the convenience store. Coming this year, scratch games from the Minnesota Lottery. And you're going to want to play because anything can happen when you say, I'm in. Must be 18 or older to play.
No matter who you are or what you do, there's a Ford vehicle that can help you own the day. Make life on the go feel like a breeze in the new Ford Explorer. Make tough tasks look easy with the powerful performance of a new built Ford Tough F-Series truck, the best-selling trucks in America for 48 years. Or take your adventures in the great outdoors to a whole new level with our built wild family of Ford Broncos. Whether it's for work or play, there's a Ford with a great deal waiting for you at your local Northland Ford dealers. Don't wait, get behind the wheel of a new Ford today, based on calendar year total sales.
Welcome back, Gopher fans. You can visit the University of Minnesota bookstore. There you'll discover the area's largest selection of U of M and Golden Gopher apparel and novelties for fans of all ages. From the latest fashions to traditional favorites, the University of Minnesota bookstore is your one-stop shop. And don't forget, every week on Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson, we'll give away a $25 gift card to the U of M bookstore. You can visit the sign up to win page on gophersports.com and visit gophersports.com/U of M bookstores to enter. And Mike Grimm, Justin Gard with you, and the head coach Ben Johnson coming off of back-to-back Big Ten wins Thursday night against Michigan, and then last night the Golden Gophers beat the Iowa Hawkeyes down there. We were just talking during the break. Femi Odikali had a big night last night, and you talked about it in the postgame a little bit. Al Nolan asked you about his a little bit of a switch to point guard. Not that he hasn't done that, but in recent games. And it's interesting because he's a little unorthodox as a point guard, but it's been very effective. Take us through the theory there and why it's working.
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, sometimes it's matchups. Like there might be a bigger, not as quick-footed guard that's guarding him. So it's easier for him and teams that pressure or pick up full to just one move and go versus if it's Lukai or Ike or Mike, they have smaller guys that are going to really work the ball. And it's like, just get those guys out and let the next guy handle it and bring it. I think the other thing too I like is it does allow, Mike and Kai to kind of fulfill more of a scoring role once you get into the half court. It's a good balance with that. And because of his size, he can see all the passes and make all the passes. And he's not a guy that's just focused on unnecessarily scoring. So I think it's a good balance to give those guys a break, especially when teams are pressing. And then now when he gets the ball and advances it up the floor, well, now you're advancing to a Lukai who can go make plays in game break. So I think it's kind of worked out. And, I think you can never have too many ball handlers and too many guys that can play in pick and roll or can break pressure. And he's kind of come into his own with that.
Then he's kind of stuffing the stat sheet, right? I mean, he had the
18, 8, and 4.
Yeah, pretty impressive.
Drew 6
and
fouls.
And
defensively on Dix, what he did defensively. I think that's who he is. He's that guy. One game he could have 18, the next game he could have 0, but he could hold the other team leading scorer to whatever, and he could have 5 assists, no turnovers, and 10 rebounds. He's a guy that he's just going to do whatever it takes to put us in position to win.
Yeah, I thought part of the defensive efforts that you guys had last night also was the way you guarded away from the ball and denied and pushed people off. Not physically pushed, but pushed people out and made sure that it was a hard situation. How much was that part of the game plan, was to make sure that you're guarding everybody, not just the guy with the ball.
Yeah, no, we really emphasize the more important thing is the people off the ball with Iowa because of their movement. And you can't just ball. If you ball watch, it's over. Stuff happens too quick. So we try to put a heavy emphasis in, our normal rim protection, and that box help wasn't going to be the same because of one of those guys on the weak side to really be physical. But you have to be accounted for all their movement and all their screening actions and stuff they're doing. So I thought our guys did a really good job of understanding that and making sure that all their motion stuff, we were physical, we were there on contact, we ran guys off the line, we were in position to switch if we needed to, and we really tried to, muddy it up.
Anything else on Iowa you want to talk about? We talk about Michigan for a second.
Yeah.
So Dawson hits. I'm getting emotional.
I know, I'm choking up here.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's okay. It's okay.
I don't have a cough button today. It's the one day we don't have a cough button. Dawson hits the shot. Place is going crazy. People are on the court. You just walk towards the other baseline, basically, presumably to get into the handshake line and shake hands and move on. What do you remember about just what you were thinking at that moment besides, oh, thank God? Thank God that went in.
Guards, if you'd have listened to the pregame show last night, you'd have known the answer.
I was working.
Oh, okay.
I was working.
No, that was...
For those that may have missed it, the pregame show.
That was a big part of it, thank God. Yeah. But, you're thinking, okay, any chance he didn't get off in time.
Right.
You're looking at the score. You're looking at the refs to see, all right, are they going to check it? That was kind of the main thing. But then it was just more of like, about time, like we got something and he couldn't have a better guy to be in that moment and step up and make that shot. And then you're watching the guys. I think that's the other part is you're watching the guys celebrate and you're enjoying more them enjoying the moment than you as the coach. That is the fun part. It's not you being in the middle of it. It's you watching those guys and just seeing the excitement and seeing them celebrate and with their teammates, with some of the fans. That's the cool part.
It was a fun night, and just in general on that situation too, because I just happened to glance down the second he made it at everybody on the sideline, and Dusty May, the head coach for them, he just literally bends at the waist all the way down. His head was almost down to his knees, and to be on the other end of that, he was just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
And just the range of emotion. And then you remember the last buzzer beater that I can remember was the Rutgers, right, when Jamison Battle hits the shot and everyone goes nuts, and then there's like a 15-minute, like you had to wait, and you're like, oh, is this going to come on? And luckily in this case there was no wait, and you got to.
Yeah, that was my memory. That was my thought. Was like, is it going to be another one of those? Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, in sports, gosh, there's so few times where it's like a true legit buzzer beater type of like walk off. So to be able to be a part of that is pretty cool, especially when you can do it at home.
Yeah, because remember the battle shot, they were getting stopwatches out because the clock didn't start in time or started too late, and which to me that's a weird rule because you're looking at the clock. So if it starts late, you're going to shoot earlier, and then there was a chance that wasn't going to work. In this case, you get 7 seconds, and you think, well, that'll be plenty of time, but there is a bobble. And my worry again was, did the clock start on? And then luckily it did. There was nothing there. But walk us through that part of it, because you think that's going to be enough. And then there's a bobble, and then they come in and kind of, nudge a little bit to force him off his angle. And now all of a sudden it became, what can we get out of this thing?
Yeah. Well, you definitely have different plays that you run depending on time and score. And so, yeah, my first worry was, oh my God, he just bobbled. It's going to be out of bounds, or it's, ball under them.
Felt like a long bobble. I was like, no way.
I said, not today, not today. In my mind, not today. But then your next thought is, oh my God, we got to really blow it up now because you're already a second behind. And then they bodied them at half court. And now you're thinking, oh God, don't panic. Like you have more time. And we talk about it all the time. We drill it. We'll put, time on the clock so that they realize that, 7 seconds is an eternity.
Yep.
And so you're hoping like, all right, please remember, you got time. And to Kai's credit, he never panicked. And, we talk about with the inbounder, especially if they're not going to defend it, can you trail for that kind of like the little flip action? And they had everybody in, and I know Dawson was calling for it because he recognized it forever. And Kai was able to wait long enough and get him across half. He got his feet set and gave it a heave.
Yeah, plenty of time, too. He got it off.
Yeah.
You mentioned it is a long time. In fact, he probably could have dribbled a time or two more, but at one point, you just got to make sure it's off. Now, in that situation, you guys were out of timeout. You only get one timeout in overtime, and there was a point earlier to use it. And then I noticed last night, so just to kind of tie those two in, you end up having to take a couple of timeouts during that stretch. Take us through kind of the philosophy on, how do you save them, how do you use them, how do you know when to use them, and then trusting your team when you're out.
You're taking one of my long contested questions today.
Oh man, do you want me to put it on hold?
No, that's okay because I can follow up on it. But
okay,
go ahead.
I think every game and during the course of the year it's different. So early in the year when I didn't have a really good feel, or I didn't feel like as a team we had a good feel, you probably save a timeout because all right, late we've got to get organized and everybody on the same page. Now we've been able to rep stuff enough in practice and game experience, and there's trust there where now on the fly, I can yell stuff out, or they could recognize and know, all right, we're going to A, B, C, or D. So then you're more worried about, okay, I need to burn timeouts if, like yesterday, can't get the ball in versus the press, all right? Or, there could be something where hey, we need to regroup here, talk about setting our defense. I'm going to burn one for that purpose only, to make sure, because this stop is really important. If you get this stop, maybe the presso doesn't matter, right? So you're more able to do that as the year progresses and you build confidence in your team and what you're doing, and you have the reps. And so, that's kind of the thought process is there's a little bit of gut instinct to it, but a lot of it is just knowing the stages of where your team's at and what they can handle. I thought yesterday it was much more important to make sure that lead didn't shrink to under 6 or whatever it was. So I was going to burn any time out to handle that. And then the rest, you just kind of talk them through it.
Very good. We'll have the rest of the contested two as I got it off to a good start.
It's going to be a 1-and-1 free throw now. Yeah, and I'm probably not going to make the first.
A long contested 1.5 coming up here after the break. Let's take our break. We will come back. We do want to remind you, it is good old-fashioned Saturday afternoon basketball at Williams Arena. Number 15, Oregon coming to town. That's a 3 o'clock tip-off. We'll take air at 2:30, and tickets are available at gophersports.com. The long-awaited, long-contested 1.5 is on the way. This is Golden Gopher basketball with Ben Johnson from Learfield. Ball Weekly with Ben Johnson, Mike Grimm, and Justin Gard with you here on the Gopher Radio Network. Each week, as we mentioned, we're giving away a $25 gift card to the U of M bookstore. Visit the sign up to win page on gophersports.com, visiting gophersports.com/U of M bookstores to enter. Real quickly, want to remind you, Minnesota and Oregon. Number 15, Oregon comes to town, 3 o'clock Saturday, 2:30 is our pregame show. Gophersports.com for tickets. And JG, we should give a quick plug. Gopher women are 17-2. They're ranked, and you've got the Wolverines tonight. You'll hear on many of these Gopher Radio Network stations.
I'm going to tell you to listen to the pregame show for all the good stuff.
I always do. I wouldn't miss it.
Top 25 matchup at the barn. First one since 2019 on the women's side, so it should be fun.
Michigan's also ranked?
Michigan's ranked one spot behind the Gophers, depending on the poll. So this is a big one.
All right. Well, good luck
comeback
tonight.
on whatever day that was, Sunday afternoon.
I watched that game. That was a crazy finish.
Down 16 with 8 minutes left. And speaking of timeouts, Coach Plitzowite called a timeout, and whatever happened in that timeout was the tonic.
That was it, huh?
They went on a crazy run right after that. So.
Well, you now have the long contested 2, which I stole the first question.
Well, and I do want to piggyback on the timeout, and Michelle can confirm I had timeout usage written down. I was actually prepared to talk timeout stuff because it must have been the Michigan game. There's about 2 minutes left. I don't remember the score, but it wasn't like an obvious timeout situation. Like you guys had been executing at a high level. They were kind of going back and forth. I don't even know how many timeouts you had, but I remember going, man, I don't know if I would have called a timeout there. I wonder why you wanted to call it. You know what I mean? I don't know if you remember the timeout, but are there times where you're in the flow and you're just kind of going through, and it might not seem like an obvious timeout, like they just got you on something, a guy needs a break, or you've had 3 empty trips and you got to get something going? Because you guys seem to be executing at a pretty high level there, obviously late in the game. Do you remember the situation that I'm talking about?
Yeah, a lot of times it's the feeling of just what's going on. and whether you're comfortable with what you're doing offensively or, more importantly, comfortable with what you're doing defensively. And I do remember that was more of a, all right, make sure we understand on this coverage, if I think they're going to run this action, like that we're good. Because there's stages in games where if you can get that one stop at a pivotal point, the momentum totally flips, even though it's just one possession. And when you have a sense of like, man, they're going to this type of look over and over, and you're like, man, either I feel really good about it, or I don't feel comfortable with what we're doing defensively. I don't know if these guys firmly know. And it was just one of those timeouts where it's like, all right, this is a huge stop, even though it wasn't like under a minute, but this is a pivotal momentum possession here. Are we understanding what we're doing when they run this type of deal? Because it's coming, and we've got to make sure we guard it right. And then offensively, it's also just saying, all right, when we get a stop, here's what we need to do offensively, because that's how you extend a lead, or that's how you maintain what you have. And so I do think for coaches, there is a lot of that, at least for me, where the timeouts aren't necessarily the obvious ones. It could be just a gut feeling of like, man, I do not like the way this is going, and I know this possession, the next one, are going to piggyback into the true winning time. And if we do a good job here executing on both ends, man, we're going to be in a really good spot. I need to make sure we're all on board with this.
Do you remember, did you guard it the way you wanted to the next time down?
Yeah. No, we did.
It worked well?
We did. It worked. And I felt like we knew what we were doing, but it was more just making sure and understanding that communication was right. But also, as a staff, you themed up what they're running and what they're trying to take advantage of, and it's just making sure these guys know, hey, we're not getting beat by this, and this. Remember, this is how we're guarding this action. When he does this, they're going to look for this. The big to big, if we were a little bit shaky on their big to big ball screen, let's get back to guarding it the right way, because this is a pivotal possession.
Well, and with the time, I think it was about 2 minutes left, right? So you go down, let's say you go down, run the clock, it's a minute 30. Let's say you don't score, they get it. They score, and all of a sudden it's a minute, right? Yep. So it does make sense to stay a possession or two ahead.
Yep. No, 100%. And some of it too is just the feeling of the game. Like some games you might not do that.
Right.
Again, guys might, but there's certain games and certain matches where you're like, man, this is big, right? And it could prevent a run, and you just want to make sure, and also make sure that they understand this is a big stop. And sometimes people think that like, okay, if there's 240 or 250, we've got time. And reality is, to your point, it's like, no, fellas, understand, if we get this stop and we run good offense, there's going to be a lot of time off that clock. Mm-hmm. So now, even though there's 2 minutes, it could only be a 2-possession game where we need to get 2 stops. This is one of those crucial ones, and just to make sure everybody knows what we're doing.
Have you ever been an assistant coach where like, what used to drive my dad crazy is when a team will score and they're on kind of their own little run, but the coach will call a timeout just because something's bothering him or her. My dad always called it you stop your own momentum timeout. It's like, well, you just had a fast break, you just scored. What's the problem? How do you feel about those? Quickly after you score, when you're not down 6, you're not doing it in the final 30 seconds. It's just at any point in the game, but you didn't like something from a couple possessions and you want to make a point even though you just made a really good play.
Yeah, I'm a big momentum guy. I don't do those very often. I know some coaches do.
Yeah.
Some coaches do. I'm not. That's not typically me. I feel like scoring, especially big scores late, ignites your defense. And if you're playing good, to me, that should give you the energy that you need to get the stop. And then sometimes I don't want that other team to be able to get organized or to have to take the timeout that I would take of, hey, man, this is a big possession now. Let's make sure we get something good. I want them to have to either call it on their own so I can save it, or they've got to play through, hopefully, a home crowd that's going nuts. Your guys are juiced and energized, and we can piggyback off of that.
Yeah, why give them the break?
Right.
Of you just making a play.
Right.
That's for my dad.
You know what my mom says, so it drives my mom nuts, is a guy...
Linda Grimm.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Well, I'll get a text in the middle of the game. And like Dawson will, and I'm just going to make up an example, but Dawson will hit 2 straight threes, right? And you have preset times you want to get him a breather, and she'll go, he just made 2 threes. Why did he take him out? That's what drives me.
Because you have to. Because the problem is...
This is for Linda.
Yeah. The problem is he doesn't get many breaks as is. And... It is. Trust me, there's times where like you might leave a guy in maybe one more possession just to see. Right. But also you're looking at, all right, you want to time it up with when they sub too. And typically, like yesterday, Freeman and Dawson normally go out roughly around the same time, like try to get them around before the first 12-minute media. So you're kind of, double dipping. So then you're thinking about that. You're going, okay, I need to get him out while they're resting Freeman because I like that matchup. I don't know. Even if he's playing well, I got to stick to that because he needs the rest, and then he goes back in. You're timing it up the same way. Versus, I feel bad if like it's 9 minutes and I'm like, dude, this guy's not had a timeout or had a sub yet, and now you're getting closer to the time when you want momentum going into half. Yeah, and now you don't feel good. So now it's like, oh my God. So even though they're playing well, maybe you steal one possession, but you try to stay on course so that it lines up not only with his normal timeouts and be able to end the half the right way, but then also, you know, the momentum and the ribbing and the subbing of the other team, you want to be able to keep that matchup.
I wonder too, like you bring one of your bench guys in and hits a shot or two.
Well, KB hit a 3 yesterday,
right? And then what do? Do you ride that, or do you say, look, you got your 3, you did what you needed to do, and we'll let the
conversely, what it can do is KB played well. He made that 3. Well, now can I steal another 30 seconds? Right. If he's now you're thinking about, okay, defensively, is he locked in? If I can get another minute that I can steal because he's playing well. No, not 4 or 5, but like if you can steal another minute or 2, it's like, man, that's valuable. Yeah. And you know, that's the kind of live thought process.
And you think, all right, I have my best player on the bench, and we just hit a 3 and we held him. We extend the lead.
Well, it's like, you know, if you have a player with 2 fouls, especially in the second half. You know, we did it last year with Elijah a couple of times. If guys are playing well and you've got a player that's, let's say, with 4 fouls late in the game, well, you can sit them longer because you don't have to worry about that. You know, your guys are playing well, and now the risk of him fouling out and you got to play guys that aren't used to extended minutes in crunch time, it goes down. So it's the same thing.
That's a great broadcaster crutch, like in the last 3 or 4 minutes. They're going to have to get Garcia back in. You know, the lead goes from like 10 to 5. They've gone as long as they can, but now they got to go. But I'm sure you think of that too. Like, guys, we've lived on the edge as long as we can. We got to put him back in there.
Maryland, right? I think Maryland has a situation.
No,
at some point you just say he's got to go.
You got to go. And you know, some of it's a roll of the dice. I think in Maryland we put him in probably with 6 minutes. Which I did not feel good about because you knew they were going to run actions to make him defend. But no, you're always trying to be gritty. You know, can I steal a couple more minutes here or there? Especially when you're trying to guard versus foul trouble. But on the road, it's also different than at home. You know, on the road, you probably are maybe that timeout you do call after you make a basket to stop a momentum, because that's different. You know, if you're on the road and you make something, you know the crowd's going to get back with them offensively. Maybe you do call that timeout because the energy is different coming out of a timeout than it is in live ball. Yeah. And if you're playing somewhere where they understand, this is a big offensive possession for whatever team that is, and all of a sudden you can feel the crowd standing up, well, boop, let's call that timeout, talk about it, and then all of a sudden maybe you die down a little bit and they're not as juiced.
I always think it's tough to shoot the free throws out of the timeout. Last night was an extreme example, obviously, because the cheerleader had the injury, but you get fouled right before a TV timeout. It's like in the flow of a game, you just go to the line, you bang them out. In the timeout, you got to sit there for 3 minutes.
Well, yes and no. Yeah, I agree. But also it's like I've never understood icing the kicker in football, but you still let him get the kickoff. Like if I'm going to ice the kicker, I'm icing it where he's not snapping it. Right. Because when you get that kickoff, you get the free look you get the judge. Okay, man, I was really long, or that felt good, or man, that was short, I need more leg. So we did it. We were at Ohio State with Talon Cooper, and he got fouled. And we needed the free throws, and that place was juiced.
I remember that.
And I remember looking at Talon being like, all right, I'm going to get killed if this doesn't work. But I called the timeout just to calm his nerves. But then also it's like the crowd was in such a frenzy. If you go up to the line right then and there, it would be a circus. So my thought was like, all right, let me calm him down. I can also talk about make or miss what we're doing defensively. But that way he can gather and he's not in the moment with all that juice trying to calm himself down. It's like, no, let it simmer. Take a deep couple breaths, get your thoughts together. But then the crowd's never really the same out of a timeout. Like they're still loud, but there's that dead period where they got to amp themselves back up.
Yeah, I agree on the icing the kicker.
Never understood it.
Because to me, it's more pressure to run out there and make sure everyone's set and your play clock.
Or him not knowing, all right, I'm lining up. Is he calling this or not? Because I guarantee that's got to mess with him sometimes too.
Then you get a practice swing in there. Unless you're Ohio and you do it too late and then you get to delay a game.
I wondered if you were going to get to that from like 2014.
I was against the Gophers. Gophers iced him and then they waited like 15 seconds. Well, it wasn't that long, but they snap it and They get a delay game. It takes them out of field goal range.
That's right. Gophers won the game.
Gophers won the game. All right, let's take a break. Garza, you have to go.
I do.
You have basketball duties tonight. Good luck with your broadcast and with the Gopher women against Michigan.
Appreciate you.
All right, we'll have our final segment with Ben Johnson. Stay with us. Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield.
Dear winter, Toyota can't get enough of you. Because Toyota's got 25 vehicles with available all-wheel drive and four-wheel drive. And that's more than any other auto brand. From the versatile RAV4 to the Svelte Crown, the sleek Camry all-wheel drive, the Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive, the rugged Tacoma, the tenacious Tundra, and the spacious Grand Highlander with all-wheel drive to keep you and yours safe. Hey, you bring the action, we'll bring the traction. Always Toyota. Toyota, let's go places. Based on manufacturer's websites as of 10/20/24.
Midland Hills Country Club is well known as one of the finest golf clubs in the Twin Cities. The club has totally renovated its classic Seth Rayner design course back to its original design. Enjoy a meticulously maintained course and experience what Midland Hills Country Club has to offer. Midland Hills is conveniently located in Roseville, just 10 minutes from either downtown. A limited number of memberships are available. The club offers a great golfing experience and a comfortable social atmosphere. Visit midlandhillscc.org.
You depend on CenterPoint Energy to deliver energy for what matters most to you, your neighbors, and throughout the land of 10,000 lakes, so we can all make a better tomorrow. That's why we're investing in the latest technology to reduce emissions, offer rebates on qualifying energy-efficient natural gas equipment, and provide energy-saving programs that help save you money. Look ahead at centerpointenergy.com/futuremn.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you don't just get a great workout, you get a great perk out because your membership is packed with perks. For $1 down and $24.99 a month, you'll get perks like access to any of our 2,400 clean and spacious locations. Bring a friend anytime and both work out with tons of equipment that'll give you that big fitness energy. Relax in the Black Card spa and more. Work out and perk out with the PF Black Card. Join for just $1 down and $24.99 a month. See Home Club for details.
Are you prepared for an emergency?
The Fan.
Michelle Train-Traversy from Gopher Basketball. Mike Grimm with you. JG's off on women's basketball duties now here as he gets ready for the game tonight. And Ben Johnson, of course, with us. We are here at the conference room of the Gopher Basketball facility. So number 15, Oregon. They beat Washington last night at home. The Ducks are now 16-3 overall, 5-3 in the Big Ten. 3 o'clock Saturday game. Tickets at gophersports.com. Certainly it'll be important to get a big Saturday afternoon crowd. This team's won 2 straight, and
please come.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's a factor.
Major factor. Major factor. I actually got a text from a coach this morning that's a head coach, not in our league, but head coach in our league, and he said, "Man, Saturday could be really fun." He's like, basically was talking about when I remember playing there and just the home court advantage you guys have at that arena. He's like, I'm hoping it's rocking for you.
A lot of people want those Saturday games, and with the new TV and 18 teams, sometimes I think like Iowa's been 2 weeks in a row without a Saturday or Sunday game. Gophers didn't play Saturday or Sunday this past week, so this is a chance. Yeah. Let's get the tickets.
Ranked team, we've won 2 in a row, 3 o'clock, like it all lines up.
This is it. Oregon's pretty good, it looks like.
Really good.
Tell us about him a little bit.
Yeah, extremely talented, size, athleticism, experience. I mean, they are what you want in a team. And they just find ways to win. I think that's the big key with them is they've won in about every way you could think of, and they find ways to get the job done, and that's the signs of a really good team. Obviously, really well coached. You know, Dana's one of the best to ever do it, over 700 wins. But just defensively, they're going to mix it up: man, zone, press, run, jump, match up. And then offensively, they've got playmakers, and they've got guys with size and length that can go get it. They got a 7-footer that can play inside and out. Just a really talented, well-coached team, and I know they're going to come here and be a really good challenge.
Were you at Northern? Was Dana at Creighton when you were at Northern Iowa as an assistant? And I mean, he's got a system. Obviously, he's got more talent probably than he's ever had. With Creighton since has stepped up to the Big East, but in the Valley, they were always good. They would always go down to Arch Madness, and that that was in St. Louis and have some good runs down there. Funk and some of these other guys were amazing. But what are you close to with him, or do you know Dana some?
Yeah, actually pretty well. So when I was at Northwestern, he recruited out of the original transfer portal my roommate Brody Deering to Creighton. But before that, I had known Dana just from, lightly recruiting me when he was at Creighton and I was in high school. And, I've always had a good cordial relationship and a guy that I really respect. I think he's one of the most, if not the most underrated coaches in the country, that's had as much success as he had that doesn't get the recognition. And I think part of it is just who he is. He's not a chest thumper. He's not into social media. He's not into, making sure everybody, praises his name. He's not a big press conference guy. He just wins. And, there's some stuff we've stolen from his teams in the past, that, have been really successful, and he's always had talent, and he coaches the heck out of them.
Well, very good. We appreciate the time today. It's been fun watching this 2-game winning streak. Let's make it 3 in a row here against a ranked team again on Saturday.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right, there he is, the head coach of the Golden Gophers, Ben Johnson. Our thanks to him. Our thanks to JG as well and everybody involved. 3 o'clock is the tip. Tickets at gophersports.com. We'll take air at 2:30 here on the Gopher Radio Network. This has been Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson from Learfield.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the whoops. And now a speech.
I just want to say that friendship is about heart and brain. Who's with me?
Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
And my brain is saying, when it's time to go home, somebody call me a ride.
Love that guy.
Me too.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Comes to a gun suicide attempt, all it takes is a moment.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost. I had snapped. I had a gun and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still a life to live for the better of myself, my family. My weapon is now safely put away.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone. Store your guns, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo. Hear more safe stories at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
On the Gopher Sports Network from Learfield, this has been Gopher Basketball Weekly with Ben Johnson. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gopher Sports Network.